Welcome, curious souls, to the Macabre Emporium, your sanctuary for the unusual, the mysterious, and the appalling.
Step through our cryptic doorway into a world where secrets whisper and enigmas come to life.
I'm David.
And I'm Sarah.
Together, we're your custodians of the macabre, guiding you through tales that defy the ordinary.
Discover the untold stories, from lesser-known cases of true crime to the bizarre events that captivate us.
Join us on a journey to the shadows where the mainstream fades and the extraordinary beckons.
So whether you seek the bizarre, the eerie, or the chillingly obscure,
you're in for a treat here at Macabre Emporium.
Welcome back to Macabre Emporium. This is episode 50.
Hooray! 50!
Yay, halfway to 100.
And if this is your first time joining us, welcome.
Welcome.
So with our end of the year, we had a huge surprise of things happened to us. We actually finished the month of December with our highest number of 912 downloads, which is like insane. I never thought that would ever happen so soon, but it's all thanks to you guys, other people we've talked to, been guests on. So we appreciate each and every one of you, like we said in our end of the year video, but now that that final number is in, it still blew me away.
Yeah.
But hopefully everybody's holidays were good and we're safe and all that good stuff. And because even though we didn't do a whole lot for ours, because we're kind of homebodies in the first place, and we're too old to be going out on New Year's Eve.
Well, there ain't shit going on around here anyways.
Well, that's true, but it is what it is. Even if there was, still would want to stay home anyhow.
You're a homebody.
So are you.
I like to go out and do stuff once in a while.
I know. So, since we don't have too much else to report on this week, what do you have for us this week, Sarah?
I don't really know how to categorize this because
it's a mystery episode.
It's different because it isn't intentionally true crimey,
right?
But it kind of winds up being accidental.
How does it accidentally become true crime?
You'll find out when I read it.
All right.
Because it's after I read it, you tell me what you would say, what it would be categorized as.
All right.
What do you got?
Well, I got my usual history, but with what you said about yours, I mean, you did say you want to start branching out past true crime anyway, so maybe this is the right step in that direction, I guess you could say, since it is the new year. You're supposed to start the new year off on your right foot, like you did in our New Year's Eve episode.
Correct, but yeah, I don't know what this is.
But like I said, I got my usual history. It kind of be a little surprising that with my family's history that has taken me this long to cover this topic. But one of our listeners' daughter, Arias, it's their first year in Girl Scouts, so I figured this is time that I actually cover this topic, and that is the Girl Scout cookie, because we're getting ready to go into that season here in actually the end of this week. Mm-hmm. So that's it. I'm bringing everybody the history of the sweetest cookie ever made, technically, or whatever, or the most famous cookie, probably up next to Oreos.
Probably.
But that's what I'm doing this week. So you get ready to get started?
And it's probably a good thing you didn't say I'm bringing everybody Girl Scout cookies, because then everybody's going to be expecting a box.
No, sorry. I don't have $6, enough money to buy everybody a $6 box of cookies.
They're $6 this year?
Most that's what they're.
Dang.
But we're going to hold on to my rage on that later. But anyhow, are you ready to get started then?
I are.
All right, let's get going.
All right. On February 19th, 1994, it was just an ordinary day at the Riverside General Hospital in Riverside, California. But at 8:15 that evening, it would change and become anything but a typical day at work. 23 people would become ill and or injured, 5 would become hospitalized, and 1 person would be dead.
Okay, this is a little bit odd well, it doesn't really sound odd for a hospital, but...
It's odd.
Oh, I get that, but, it's like, this is a hospital. That shit happens every day.
Yeah, you'll understand.
Right.
30-year-old Gloria Ramirez started feeling unwell. I assume as unwell as anyone with late-stage cervical cancer would. She had been diagnosed 6 weeks prior to this night, but on this night, she started having heart palpitations, her blood pressure was rapidly dropping, and she was very short of breath. If you're in that situation, like any normal person would be like, call an ambulance.
Right.
So that's what she did. It could be that she was just having typical symptoms of cancer, or it could be that her body was reacting to cancer treatments. When the ambulance and EMTs arrived, they saw the state that Gloria was in and loaded her up quickly and put her on oxygen to help her breathing. They headed in the direction of Riverside General Hospital, and once there, she was unloaded and rushed to a room in the emergency department wing. Doctors came in to start treating Gloria. She was in panic mode, so they gave her a combination of lorazepam, diazepam, and midazolam, something.
Bam-a-lam.
I hate that song. But those were given to her to sedate her while they tried to stabilize her. However, Gloria did not respond well to one of or combination of those medications they used to calm her down. She wound up flatlining, and the doctors went into immediate life-saving measures. They busted out the defibrillator and primed it for, use before they could actually use it on Gloria. Of course, they had to remove her shirt so they could put the sticky pads on her.
Right, and not get burned from the underwire.
Ooh, yeah, I didn't think about that. When they did this, they noted that she had a glossy, oily sheen to her body, her skin.
Okay.
They didn't think anything of it other than, hey, she probably had lotion on. So they went ahead and they zapped her with the defibrillator. They got Gloria back, barely, and continued to work on her. Though it seemed everything they tried just wasn't working. One nurse that was standing near the head of the bed said that Gloria had an extremely strong smell of garlic coming from her mouth, overpoweringly garlicky. But she wouldn't be the only one to notice a harsh smell. Susan Kane was in the room and was drawing blood from Gloria to send in for lab testing. When she pulled the needle back out of Gloria's arm, she said that it smelled like a very harsh ammonia. Her blood did.
Okay.
She handed it off to another person that was actually going to be the one to take it to the lab. And she put it up to her nose and smelled it. And she said, yeah, it smells just like ammonia.
What in the fuck's going on here?
Yeah.
See, my mind's already, since I'm a conduit of nonsense, basically, is that, like you said, one person died and then talking about the garlic smell. I was like, that person was a vampire.
So the one that had the vial at the end held it up to the light just to kind of look in the blood, see if there was any abnormalities. And there were manila colored crystals floating in her blood, which if you didn't know, crystals in your blood's probably not a good thing. Definitely not normal. But this is when things go from a little odd to extremely odd. Susan Kane, the nurse that had drawn the blood, fainted. Thankfully, Dr. Humberto Ochoa was next to her and caught her before she hit the floor. When she came to, she told Dr. Ochoa that she felt like her face was burning. From there, more medical staff in the room began to have mysterious symptoms of their own. Julie Gorczynski, a medical resident that handled the vial after Susan, she's the one that saw the crystals in the blood, stated that she also wasn't feeling well. She wound up fainting and went into convulsions. Another nurse was in the room, started feeling dizzy and nauseous, and went to sit at the nurse's station. When another nurse passed by her and saw, just the look on her face, I guess, she had asked her, are you feeling okay? And that nurse fainted.
See, even in my head right now, it's they need to get this lady in a negative pressure fucking flow room at this point, because all hospitals do have those for infectious diseases. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, this is where this lady needs to be, right fucking now. Because we're on, our body count's, 4 already so far?
Yeah, it's few. Two as of right now. Maureen Welch, a respiratory therapist, had been the one delivering oxygen to Gloria in the hospital. She also wound up fainting. At this point, everyone is starting to suspect there's a natural gas leak in the hospital, and so they evacuate everybody, except for Gloria. There were a few medical staff that stayed in the room with Gloria trying to stabilize her, but to no avail. Gloria Ramirez was pronounced deceased at 8:50 p.m., a short 35 minutes after entering Riverside General Hospital. The people that worked in the room with Gloria all kind of agreed that what happened to everyone was not the work of a gas leak in the hospital, but stemmed from Gloria herself. So just to be safe, Gloria's body was moved to a quarantined room to be held while they waited for her autopsy to be done.
Of course, now they fucking put her in there.
Well, they were trying to save her life.
Right, but You know, I don't work in a hospital, but I do know of things of being in hospitals. But I'm like, or my thought was like, fuck, you got 2 people dropping out, and like, but you know, at this time they didn't know it was she's the cause of this or whatever, or if that's what, I mean, obviously she's the cause because she's already got all this other weird shit going on. So I'm making that assumption already.
Sally Balderas was one of the people that helped move Gloria's body, and very soon after doing so, started vomiting and screaming that it felt like her skin was on fire. Everyone that was evacuated was still outside, waiting on hazmat to come in and do a sweep, and when they did, there was no biological, chemical, or gas leak inside of the building. This only furthered the doctors and nurses that worked on Gloria's suspicions even higher that what happened wasn't a hospital thing, it was a Gloria thing.
Right.
In an effort to further contain whatever Gloria brought in with her, she was sealed inside of an aluminum casket and put back into the quarantine room. After this, the emergency rooms were opened up to be used again. In total, 23 people in the emergency department wing of the hospital reported some type of illness, be it nausea, vomiting, skin feeling like it was burning, fainting. 5 of the hospital staff were hospitalized, even after Gloria had been sealed up in the aluminum casket inside the quarantine room.
God damn.
Susan Kane was in the hospital for 10 days dealing with her symptoms. Julie Gorczynski was in for 2 weeks and was dealing with developing hepatitis and avascular necrosis in her knees because of this incident. She wound up being off of work for 6 months due to having to use crutches because of all the bone density she lost from the necrosis. Others experienced temporary paralysis, severe dizziness, and disorientation, among many other symptoms. But what exactly do you think happened to Gloria? What do you think would cause this to happen to all these people around Gloria?
Fuck, I don't know. I mean, it's like making me think of the opening lyrics of, you know, Johnny Cash's The Man Comes Around As I Heard. You know, where he mentions, like, come and see and I saw and behold the white horse, meaning, you know, the plague horse, you know, the apocalypse. Oh. It's like, this is like what we're thinking.
Oh, jeez.
That she's one of the 4 horsemen, basically.
A horsewoman?
A horsewoman.
1 week after Gloria was declared deceased, she had her first autopsy done. The medical examiner waited a week in hopes that whatever Gloria had going on would have subsided and not be re-released and make anyone else sick. Those working in the morgue suited up in full hazmat gear as precaution and got to work. When the reports and lab work came back, it showed that Gloria was clean. Not an ounce of chemical or radioactive material was found in her system. Nothing.
Well, no shit, because she off-gassed everything else in the hospital and the fucking morgue. It's like, did they leave her out back to air out a little bit first, or what?
They did find the medications that the doctors had given her, as well as acetaminophen, which is just plain old Tylenol, lidocaine, which is a numbing agent, and Tygan, which is an anti-nausea medication. But all of these, well, these last 3, the Tylenol, Tygan, lidocaine, those are all very common to be found in people that are going through cancer treatments.
Which, I mean, I also guess they don't interact with each other and probably not interact with each other to cause a biological issue like this.
Right. Gloria's cause of death came back as heart complications stemming from kidney failure.
Or becoming the fucking white horse, maybe. I don't fucking know.
Her cancer, plus the medications taken, had caused the kidney failure. It also showed that she was going through the early stages of liver failure. Because of her liver failure, she had backup of toxins in her system, which led to the heart problems and her eventual death.
Okay.
Okay. You good there?
Yeah.
But how does this add up to 23 people?
Yeah. Like, what the fuck here?
You know, sick with various things.
Right.
That were directly, like, on top of her in the
room. So she
room.
was the one death and not, like, one of the hospital people, like I was saying. So there wasn't a vampire after all.
There was not a vampire. Gloria's body was resealed again, and 5 weeks after the initial autopsy, she had a second one performed. This time, they took samples from all of the tissues throughout her body. During this autopsy, the Department of Health was making their rounds and doing their investigation into what happened that night. And everything that they tested came back negative for anything out of the ordinary. With this, the Department of Health decided that Gloria did indeed die from heart problems, and went as far as to proclaim that everyone else that got sick that night was just dealing with mass psychogenic illness, aka mass hysteria.
Yeah, okay.
30-some people were talked to that were in the building that day, and a common theme was found among them. It was mostly women that became ill, as well as those that had not eaten dinner that night. It was said that the ones that just felt nauseous happened to be the ones that hadn't eaten. But the ones that got severely ill were all women, because women were most often the ones to be hit by mass hysteria.
Right.
The men that were in the room also said they were feeling unwell, but it was only the women that had felt it severely by fainting and saying that they felt like their skin was burning. The hospital workers were not okay with the summary given by the Department of Health. Understandable.
Because, they lived the fucking thing and didn't just read about it on paper like they did.
Right. Julie Gorchinsky wound up suing the hospital because she was unable to collect workman's comp due to the Department of Health report, even though it was from something that came from the hospital. So she sued him. What had happened to Julie was researched by Lawrence Livermore Laboratories. They used Gloria's samples against Julia's. They also did a full lab request on Gloria's sample, and they did find something interesting. They found dimethylsulfone, DMSO.
Okay.
It's a natural chemical that can be found in trace amounts within one's own body. Eating a lot of plant-based foods or eggs, really anything containing sulfur in it, will make it show up in your system. Once it's broken down by your digestive tract, the dimethylsulfone will show up in trace amounts, like very, very, very tiny number.
We're talking like 0.00000 or whatever.
Trace amounts. DMSO actually naturally decomposes in about 3 days, and by itself is harmless at any concentration.
Right.
Gloria's sample from 6 weeks after her death showed that she had at least 6 times the amount of DMSO in her system. And remember, it only takes 3 days for that shit to go away.
Right.
So keep in mind, this was 6 weeks after her death. While she was alive, it would have been hundreds of times higher, since it, like I said, naturally decomposes in 3 days. Scientist Pat Grant, a researcher in the case, did more digging into this and noted that dimethylsulfone, DMSO, and dimethylsulfoxide, DMSO2, had literally just the only difference in them is that DMSO2 had oxygen, hence the O2.
Right.
1 oxygen atom is the only difference. It was also found that prolonged usage of DMSO2 would cause damage to the lens of your eyes. And with that, it was blacklisted as a direct medication from the FDA. It is still used today, just in extremely diluted concentrations. They use it for, like, morphine patches. Like, anything you have to put on your body, it works as a carrier agent into your skin to carry the medication that's on the patch. Right. So that's what that's for. In the 1980s, scientists stated that DMSO2 could be used as a cancer treatment. Basically a cure-all, is what they said it was. People could literally walk into a hardware store, buy some DMSO2, and rub it on areas that had muscle pain, and the next morning it would be gone. Now I say they could walk into a hardware store and get it because it was a very powerful degreaser. Paint remover, oven cleaner, was commonly used in the 80s for those 3 things. When it was used, it had a heavy odor of garlic, much like the smell coming from Gloria's mouth when she entered the hospital. Tygan, the anti-nausea medication that I mentioned earlier that showed up in her lab work, that breaks down into amines in the body. Amines are related to ammonia, which could explain the ammonia smell coming from the blood that was taken out of her arm. But we don't know. In its appearance, when used on the skin, DMSO2 typically looks like an oily gel type of lotion. Just like the sheen that Gloria had on her body when they removed her clothing to use the defibrillator on her. While all of this is just hypothetical, given the time and the fact that DMSO2 could be used as a cancer cure-all, Gloria may have tried to use this as a home remedy for her cervical cancer, especially since she had only found out 6 weeks prior to her going to the hospital that she already had late-stage cancer. Like, not enough time to get chemo, any of that. So, like, did she try it in hopes that it would cure her cancer?
Possibly is what it sounds like here.
There was no DMSO2 found in her body. It was just DMSO. The DMSO would need to encounter a lot of oxygen to turn it into DMSO2. Pat Grant, the scientist, thought about it and remembered that Gloria was given oxygen via an oxygen mask when en route to the hospital and again at the hospital.
So they basically made it internally inside of her body when she was en route to the hospital, basically.
That would have made it very easy to change DMSO into DMSO2 with concentrated oxygen like that you get from an oxygen mask. It was also found that DMSO2, when found at room temperature, contained small crystals, like the ones that were found in the blood vial. Pat Grant did an experiment and added DMSO2 to room temperature blood, and crystals began to form, which explains a lot. But again, at any concentration, DMSO and DMSO2 are not lethal. So kind of back at square one. Pat Grant did more investigating and found another thing, DMSO4, which is dimethyl sulfate. Simply put, nerve gas. It had been tested in the 1970s and 1980s as an agent for nerve gas. It dated all the way back to World War I, when France and Germany tested it for use in chemical warfare. Is it starting to come together yet?
Yep.
In 1987, DMSO4 was found to be super dangerous. It would only take 10 minutes of exposure to a half gram per cubic meter to kill somebody. Of the 20 symptoms reported in the hospital, 19 of them were directly linked to symptoms of DMSO4, sorry. The only one that wasn't linked was vomiting. Scientists stated that it was never seen in any of their experiments. But if you look up DMSO4 now, which I did when writing this, it does show vomiting as one of the symptoms. It is apparently really easy to make DMSO into DMSO2 simply by adding oxygen. It's not as easy to make DMSO2 into DMSO4.
Right, because I'm sure there's more steps into the process of it.
2 methyl bonds would need to be broken, and then those 2 would need to connect to oxygen twice over. It takes a lot of energy to break it down, even once, let alone to have to do it twice. But there was something that used a lot of energy, or rather created a lot of energy.
I don't know, maybe happen to be a defibrillator, maybe.
The defibrillator. Pat Grant thought that the DMSO2 was electrocuted by the defibrillator, as that would have given it enough energy to break apart the bonds it had, or to restructure itself with other chemicals and elements in Gloria's body. Other scientists have agreed with that. However, all of this is hypothetical. But if this is what happened, which many people believe it is, this essentially would have turned the hospital into a gas chamber.
Yeah, because if she's like literally covered in this shit and got that zap a couple times or whatever.
Yep. Not enough to be lethal. Definitely enough to make a lot of people sick.
Right.
Also, all of that sciencey shit, I'm going to say thanks to Wendigoon on YouTube, because reading that made no sense to me. I had to listen to somebody like dumb it down for me. So, yeah, Wendigoon on YouTube. But there was a third autopsy done by the request of Gloria's family. The coroner came and did a private autopsy 10 weeks after Gloria's death. They noted that her heart was missing, which would be on par because she had 2 prior autopsies. They had to figure out what happened in her heart. Of course, they're going to take it out and they have to slice it and biopsy and all that stuff.
Weight and all that good stuff.
Yep. So that, not a shocker. They said that there was also a lot of internal organs that had traces of feces on them. But you have to remember, this is 10 weeks after she died. Like, there's going to be decomposition. Her bowel will open, it will slosh and touch other organs inside her body. So that's not really anything like, oh my God, you know?
Well, to those that wouldn't understand or heard about how autopsies are done and all that stuff for like we have, wouldn't understand that. So. Yeah.
Conspiracy theorists said that it was all done as a cover-up. For what? Don't know, couldn't find anything. But there was no proof or merit to back up any of the conspiracy theories.
Right, because there's always one group that's got to come out when a weird, like, shit happens. It's like recently, like, as today I seen, like, they're trying to say, I think it was in Miami, Florida, I guess some, like, massive brawl broke out and people are trying to say it was a cover-up of fucking aliens or some stupid shit.
Oh, Jesus. It's just Florida. Floridians being Floridians.
Right. It's like, shut up, you're in Florida. Nobody actually believes a word coming out of your mouth.
All right. So Gloria was laid to rest 10 weeks after her death on April 20th in 1994 at the Olivewood Memorial Park in Riverside, California. Her family continues to deny that Gloria ever used DMSO2 as a home remedy. It could be that they didn't know she was using it. It could be that they knew she was using it and doesn't want to let others know that she had a hand in her own death. she didn't do anything wrong. It was just a lot of little things that added up to something huge.
One big thing.
Right. But today, well, to this day, scientists still work with DMSO, DMSO2, and DMSO4, and they use Gloria's case specifically as a footnote in their findings in hopes that this situation never happens again.
Right.
But let's hope it doesn't, because that's terrifying.
Like, can you still buy this DSMO2 stuff, like, off the shelf? Because of this?
That I don't know.
Oh.
I'm not sure. If you can, it's very low concentrations of it. Like, very low. But I don't know. I didn't look it up. I should have, but I didn't. Now, do you get what I'm saying when I was like, it's not true crimey, but it turns a little true crimey? Because she didn't do anything wrong. She was using the stuff in hopes that it would cure her cancer, but then her getting the oxygen from the people that were trying to help her.
Right.
And the defibrillator basically put nerve gas in the air at the hospital.
Right.
So, how would you categorize that?
I have no idea.
I don't either. So I'm like, I don't know.
It's almost like, yeah, she fucking stole my part of the episode. Because of being some weird oddball thing that happened, you know?
I told you would like that.
I know, but I'm just saying, she's stealing my shit again.
Again.
I don't know. I think there's like some other origins or some history shit you've done in the past that I was like, she's stealing my stuff, everybody.
Oh, I don't know.
I don't remember. I probably said that at one point, or I'm just imagining it.
Could be. But yeah, that's it for Gloria Ramirez, whose nickname is the Toxic Lady. So, like, with all of the weird, like, poisony gas type things that you've researched.
I think I've only done 2 of those, really.
I felt like it was more. Anyways, what's your takeaway from that case?
Like with, my previous training that I've had, is just like things that were going on. It's like, okay, this is starting to sound like a terrorist attack because of early onset illnesses coming up out of nowhere for no reason with no explanation. So that was like my first thought, because that train of thought shit never is going to leave my head. Even though it's been like 10 years since then. But it was still like, what the fuck's going on here? Because it's like, I don't know. It's like, even as you're reading things off, even in my head, I'm still trying to decipher what's going on. Mm-hmm. It's like, my guess was before you got to it was like some kind of medication reaction, but you got to that point, it's like none of these interact with each other. Yeah. So then I was like, okay, fucking now what? And then you started reading through all the chemical types and whatnot. It's like, oh, so something's here got turned into this from this because of, like, in Attack of the Dead Men, hydrochloric acid changes once it's exposed to air. Mm-hmm. No, chlorine changes into hydrochloric acid once it's exposed to moisture or water. I don't remember off the top of my head at this point. Yeah. Without going back and look, which I'm not doing. Right. So it's just weird how, like, one atom can change. Mm-hmm. And how something as simple as getting oxygen. Right. One thing that's like brings life to everything is like, I can gonna fucking wreck your day now by one super teeny tiny atom. Yep. It's crazy. Mm-hmm. I knew you'd like that one. That definitely felt like a you episode, but then I was like, no, I've had her on my list for a long time. Right. I'm doing it. And there's nothing wrong with you jumping in on that side of things, because we've done double true crime stuff, but that could have been a double what the fuck if we paired it with something else. Again, what would you have classified? Like, what category would you put that in? I have no idea where we would put that in, other than maybe weird history or just history in general stuff, or because I don't know. Yeah, it's not true crime, but little pieces added up to essentially somebody bringing nerve gas into the hospital with them. Right. But anyways, I'm ready to hear your story. Oh, you are? Yeah. Yeah, the start of the new year, when we all want to do better than the last. Some of you might want to get your finances straight. Some of you might want to go out and learn something new. Maybe even some of you want to get in better shape. And doing so well and staying on track, but be careful, soon they will appear. Who you might ask? Oh, I'm sure you know who I mean. No, you know exactly who I mean. Those little smiling devils in green or brown vest, offering sweet temptations in many shapes as they have them piled high. You easily ignore their calls when you see them at the storefronts at first, but now it's too late for you, as you're already thinking about the treasures they offer. You hope that they leave the territory they have staked claim to before you leave the store, but they haven't. They're still there. As you check out, you try to ignore them, but they are staring at you down with soulless smiles, just waiting for you to come close enough. But this time you can't resist. You've been in the store for too long, and their first song hasn't escaped your mind. Their second call does you in. Would you like to buy some cookies? Now, I'm not talking about real devils of the sort, but I am talking about the Girl Scouts and their cookies. It's been a long time joke that I've always heard around here that the Girl Scouts have their cookie sales at this time of year as they are in cahoots with gyms nationwide. Oh. Because of how, convenient is that? Just like, oh, hey, we're just going to ruin everybody's New Year's resolution and have our cookie sales because nobody can fucking deny our cookies. But originally this week I was going to bring you an inspirational tale. But as one of our listeners' daughter, Araya's first year as the Girl Scouts, her first year in Girl Scouts, I figured it was time that I covered this topic. As Sarah, my family was big into boy and Girl Scouts. And you have heard and even seen the stacks of cases my sister used to have stored in her house, causing her a temporary increase of her house's value for about 2 months. And it was also nicknamed the Cookie Vault during these times.
The Cookie Vault?
Yeah. But for real quick, as this topic could be its own separate episode, I'm sure that my mother would be excited to hear this, but the Girl Scouts were founded by Juliet Gordon Low in 1912 after meeting with Sir Robert Baden-Powell, who was the founder of Boy Scouts in the previous year of 1911. As she returned to her home in Savannah, Georgia, she telephoned a distant cousin saying, I have something for the girls of Savannah and all of America and all of the world, and we're going to start tonight. And on March 12th, 1912, the Girl Scouts were born. It wouldn't be until 1917 that the first Girl Scout cookies would actually be sold in Muskogee, Oklahoma by the Mistletoe Troop. The first cookie sale was intended for the girls of the Mistletoe Troop to raise money to send care packages to World War I troops from Oklahoma. So I actually do have the recipe here for the, this 1917 recipe for the actual, what's called, and has been credited everywhere as the original Girl Scout cookie recipe.
Is it made of real Girl Scouts?
No, it's not. Wednesday. I've been wondering when you were going to try and slip that in here.
Right now.
So, the recipe that goes: 1 cup of butter, 1 cup sugar plus additional amount for topping, 2 eggs, 2 tablespoons of milk, 1 teaspoon vanilla, 2 cups of flour, 1 teaspoon of salt, 2 teaspoons baking powder. So when to make these cookies, you would cream butter and sugar together, and then you would add in well-beaten eggs, then milk, vanilla, flour, salt, and baking powder, and you refrigerate it for 1 hour like you would normally do cookie dough. And then you would roll out your dough, cut it out into trefoil shapes, which is the shape of the Girl Scout emblem that everybody knows. And then you would sprinkle sugar on top if you desired to do this. Bake in a quick oven as it's written out, but we just do know it as an oven at 375 degrees for approximately 8 to 10 minutes, or until the edges begin to brown. And this makes 6 to 7 dozen cookies by this recipe. So I'm going to share this recipe link, the link that I got this recipe from, in the Facebook group, and there is a section in there you can cut that down and it'll automatically change the ingredient amounts that you're going to need. So if you want to make this, remember to change your yield to 1, 2 dozens or whatever, or you're going to end up with 7 dozen cookies if you follow this exactly.
Yeah.
But also in a first that we've done for an episode here, we actually went and made these cookies.
We did. Yeah. That's an experience.
Yeah, So what we're going to do is we're going to actually try some of this original recipe and tell you guys our thoughts on them, but we're not, I know some of you might suffer from, what is it?
Misophonia.
We're not going to eat these on recording, so we're going to take a real quick break, I guess you could say. And
we'll be right back. And we're back.
So, yeah, it's basically just like the shortbreads that you can get now.
Yep. I think maybe a little bit sweeter.
Yeah.
Than the shortbreads, but...
Right, because, those are commercially made, but...
Yeah.
Everything you make at home is usually always better than store-bought, whatever.
It was very good, though. Mm-hmm. Just make sure... Okay, so the first half of the batch, I forgot to roll in flour with it, so it was very sticky to, cut out and put on the tray. The second batch, I actually added flour while I was rolling it, and that came out much better. You just got to make sure you cook them for the right time.
Right.
So they don't come out hard as a brick.
Yep. Which the little second run kind of did a little bit, but that was kind of on me too. Because it's
still good.
Middle of the doing something at the time.
Yeah.
And luckily I remembered in time before they were all toast, like dark brown all the way through, like one or two of them.
We only had to throw 3 of them away.
Out of the 37 that yielded out of what we made.
Yeah.
So, but anyhow, maybe we'll have to do that again in the future. Like, I already have an idea for something like that.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, something I know you've never eaten before in your life.
Oh, God. What?
It's nothing terrible.
What?
I'm not going to talk about it now.
Okay.
Because if I talk about it now, because I know how you are, when food stuff gets brought up, if it doesn't sound appetizing, you won't try it.
Correct. I will not.
So I'm not telling you now, and if I do it, we're going to do another episode on it.
Okay.
So I don't know, if you like this whole taste of history thing we kind of did for the first time ever with Girl Scout cookies, let us know.
Ooh, taste of history. I like that. I don't like the cookie.
Yeah.
Y'all should make some.
So, getting back here on the story. Back on track. So, 5 years later, in July of 1922, the director of Chicago Girl Scouts, Florence E. Neal, wrote an article for the American Girl, which is the official magazine of the Girl Scouts. She suggested that cookie sales to be a fundraiser, and she also provided a recipe, which is the same one I just read off to everybody, and we made.
Yeah.
And in her article, she stated that ingredients for a batch of up to 6 or 7 dozen would cost 26 to 36 cents. But to put this in today's money with such a large range of the price value, I averaged it out to simplify to make all this section easier for me. Mm-hmm. It averaged out to be 31 cents and in 31 cents in 1922, equaling out to $5.64 today in 2024. She would also suggest selling them for 25 cents to 36 cents a dozen. And the average of that came out to be 30 cents, and again, making them $5.64 a dozen. Now that I actually had an actual month to use with this, other than in the past, I was able to give like the exact time when dollar amounts for these time periods. So even though these are from like 2023 numbers, I know they're not that much far off. So even still today in the modern world.
So, I mean, honestly, if they're selling for $6 a box, they're not really getting much profit off of them.
No, they're not. I've actually, one of the things I forgot to look up was the breakdown on it. Mm-hmm. I mean, even though when they are selling these cookies, it still goes into the council and all the troops still get an amount. And of course, they got to pay the bakers and for that and logistics companies for transport and everything. But with, all those numbers crunched and everything, and every year growing up, I always remembered hearing people bitch about the price of Girl Scout cookies going up. So with that inflation calculator and everything, just pay the 36 cents and shut up about it already.
Right.
Because I know you're going to sit there and eat an entire sleeve of Thin Mints in one sitting. And don't deny it, everybody does it at least once.
It is very easy to do.
And if you're a cheapskate that wants to say, oh, just go to Dollar Tree, they're the knockoff ones are just better. You're dead to me. I don't care. You're dead to me at this point. I don't care how long I've known you. Because you're taking money out of the Girl Scouts' pockets to keep their troops going.
Yeah.
And this is why I put that fucking note to stay in topic, because you already fucking hear it. And it's
your
like,
face is
fuck me!
Turning red. Oh, man. He's going to start spitting soon.
So, because the Girl Scouts is my mom's legacy, so it's like...
personal to you.
I still get asked, it's like, oh, was your mom Goldie Magus? I'm like, yeah. It's like, oh, yeah, she was my daughter's leader, or she trained me to be my daughter's leader and shit. So, and you've been around when it's happened. So, when people start talking shit about Girl Scouts and whatnot, I will go be a battle scat, so to speak, about the fucking Girl Scouts.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess you could say that's a hill I'm going to fucking die on, or whatever, so.
It is what it is.
But anyway, before I even continue going on with that shit, because you already know there's one specific podcast I refuse to fucking listen to because of the way they trashed the Girl Scouts. Because they didn't understand the technology in the 1970s, and everybody didn't have closed-circuit television cameras at that time when the Girl Scout camp murders happened. So when their uneducated rant about security and whatnot went on, it was like, I'm fucking done.
Yeah.
But anyway, because I'm already gone on almost like 6 minutes at this point. And this is why I put in my script, try to stay on topic, because I knew this would fucking happen once I started talking about the knockoffs at Dollar Tree and everything.
Yeah.
So, up until 1928, these cookie sales were for general fundraising. And in this year, it would be suggested that troops start selling these cookies to become self-supporting, which probably was a blessing in disguise, as the Great Depression would happen the following year. And even during the Great Depression, they still made their cookies. People still were able to buy them. One of the first, I guess you could say, booth sales actually happened in a General Electric building where they were selling them for like 48 cookies for the 30 cents they were selling them at the time, which I cannot understand why they went from 12 to 3 times as much during the Great Depression era. I couldn't find a reason why they did that. So even though through the Great Depression the girls would still push on making their cookies, which probably was a small slice of heaven for everyone struggling, the Girl Scouts would continue to bake their own cookies either at home or where they held their meetings. As popularity of these items soared, like we are seeing over an ugly-ass thermal mug right now, at the time as we're recording this episode, the Girl Scouts of Philadelphia would organize the first commercial sales in 1934, contracting with an unknown commercial bakery, which I tried to find a name for, which, of course, I couldn't find it. And with their success of these Girls of Philly, other councils would contact them to be included. With these commercials bakers now producing the cookies, Girl Scouts would now learn 5 skills through the now established cookie program that many of us all know and my family knows all too well. And these skills would help these scouts develop goal setting, decision making, money management, people skills, and business ethics.
Okay.
And before the start of World War II in 1938, the popularity of Girl Scout cookies was soared to 10 million sold. No, excuse me. $10 million basically. I'm assuming it's $10 million. It didn't specify cookies or boxes or whatever because boxes weren't happening yet.
That's a lot either way, though.
Yeah. So, and of course, I inflated that to $219 million today off the 2023 numbers that were available to me.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And that's such short of a period. During World War II, with the rationing for the war effort, Girl Scouts would sell calendars along with their cookies. And these calendars would have different drawings of Girl Scouts doing various scouting activities for each of their month. They would also collect fat cans to aid in the war effort.
Collect what?
Fat cans. Because the glycerin and pig fat could be used to make explosives and gunpowder and lubrications for mechanical parts and whatnot.
That makes much more sense. I was trying to figure out what a fat can was.
I was getting to that part and you asked too soon.
I didn't ask. I was just like, huh?
Right.
Stupid titties.
No, you gotta remember during the war effort, every little thing was used for everything because, the ban on sliced bread for 2 months that happened. Look at that, how that did. That was, a bonkers ass fucking story. Yeah. And after World War II in the 1950s, 3 cookie varieties would be introduced. So not just the shortbread that we've known. The Girl Scout cookie, the shortbread is actually one of them, and this is where it gets its first original name. Okay. And these would be the shortbread that we made and tried. So now it has its own name. The peanut butter sandwich, and then the destroyer of diets and self-control, the chocolate mint, or as we know it today as the Thin Mint.
The Thin Mint is the best.
I am Thin Mint from the House of Diet Destroyers. 5 years later, a cookie similar to an Oreo would be introduced, and nearly 30 commercial bakers are now producing Girl Scout cookies nationwide.
They had one that was like an Oreo? Really?
Yeah, it was called a Vancho. Basically, it was also paired up with a vanilla cookie, sandwich cookie as well, too. Huh. I mean, there's not much that really goes on with the whole progress of Girl Scout cookies. Like in the 1960s, that's when the Samoa Caramel Delight comes into play. And yes, I will actually explain why they have 2 different names here in a minute. So from the 1970s today, different flavors have come and gone, and 125 million boxes would be sold by 1975. Near the end of the 1970s, the number of bakeries would start to be reduced as to keep the cost down and uniformity in the cookies to 4 and eventually into 2 bakeries in the 1990s, which are the still 2 that make Girl Scout cookies today. The ABC Bakers in North Sioux City, South Dakota, and Little Brownie Bakers in Louisville, Kentucky. And these are the only 2 bakeries that have the legal rights to make these little diet smashers in the United States today still.
Little diet smashers.
So, why do the cookies have 2 different names? Because, some areas, like from where you're from, you've had your Samoas, your tag-alongs, and do-si-dos, and spinner all-arounders and shit like that.
What was a do-si-do?
Do-si-do is actually what you know as a peanut butter patty, if I remember correctly off the top of my head.
Okay, because I've never heard of a do-si-do.
Maybe I'm thinking of something else. I'm thinking maybe that the do-si-dos came from a list that I had looked at from one of the bakers for my fun facts section.
Oh,
on
maybe.
different things. But now, so with that said, why do they have two different names? Because of licensing. That's it. That's the only reason why.
So the little brownie baker place has their own license for the Girl Scout cookies.
And the ABC Bakers has their own. So because of them being registered trademark names, they can't use the same one.
But they're affiliated and work together.
Right. But since they're two separate entities with their own trademarking licensing, they have to use separate names.
Huh. Okay.
Now, but here's the weird part. There's only one of them that actually still shares the same name between both bakeries.
Thin Mint?
Yep.
I'll say, because I've never seen that called anything other than Thin Mint.
I know. That's the thing. It's like, it's one of the things I've always been asked people because they know, my family's history with Girl Scouts and whatnot. So it's like, why do they have two different names? It's like, because of trademark licensing. I mean, they're literally the same, and some people claim they taste different, which they might be a little bit different. But why only have two bakeries, for uniformity if they're going to taste different?
Right.
So it could be in their head. It could be an actual thing. Who knows?
Like a left and a right Twix.
Yeah, basically. Yeah. But who knows? I've never had little brownie baker Girl Scout cookies. It's always been ABC bakers in our area that I'm always been aware of.
Well, I can tell you the Samoas were the shit.
Right. So I don't know.
Maybe one of these times we're up visiting my family if we see some Girl Scouts out there. See if they've got some Samoas.
Or actually, I actually started a featured post in the Facebook group that if you have a daughter in Girl Scouts and want to have a link for other people to buy cookies to help reach their goal, go drop your link in that featured post. And it'll be super easy to find because it's a picture of Dracula getting sold Girl Scout cookies. Thanks, being AI. Now we're going to move on to fun facts here.
Fun facts.
Fun facts. About 200 million boxes of cookies are sold each year.
200 million?
Each year.
Jesus criminy.
Girl Scout cookies do not have any preservatives and are kosher. And they do offer some gluten-free options too.
Nice.
And over the 100 years that Girl Scout cookies have been around, there has been over 50 different types of Girl Scout cookies that have come and gone. But there are three that are always mandatory to be sold each year.
Can I guess?
Sure.
Thin Mint.
Yep.
Peanut butter sandwich.
Yep.
Peanut butter patty.
No.
No?
Nope. We literally just ate it.
Oh, the shortbread?
The shortbread, peanut butter sandwiches, and Thin Mint are mandatory to be sold every year.
There was one that one of your nieces had gotten when we were still out there. Mm-hmm. And I know we both weren't big on it.
Yeah,
I think it had a raspberry or something in it.
There's been a couple different raspberry ones through the years and whatnot. So
wasn't really a fan.
Right, like there's 50, it's like 54. I think's the correct actual number. But some of the previous flavors that have been was my personal favorite, which the little sons of bitches who got rid of these fucking things. I'm so mad about it. Was the lemon cream sandwiches. I know I was literally upset when I found out they stopped making these things. I was like, well, I am not buying cookies anymore, which is not true.
Just the way you said it. I was so mad about it.
Oh, well, yeah. So it was like this sandwich cookie, but it was like a lemon cream on the inside. And it was like,
okay.
It had a little bit of a tang to it like lemon does, but it wasn't overpowering.
Yeah.
So, and then there was my sister's favorite, the Golden Yangles, which is a little cheese snack cracker thing similar to a Cheez-It. They were in the 1980s.
Never heard of them.
Like I said, there's over 50 of them.
Yeah.
And this was only some of the ones I could find on the internet, and I knew there's more because of trademark licensing.
Oh.
So then I do remember this one, the apple cinnamon, which was an apple-shaped cookie that tasted like apple cinnamon. It was a reduced fat one.
Damn, I would have liked to try that one. I don't remember that one.
Then there was a kookaburras in the 1980s, and it was similar to a Little Debbie Star Crunch.
Ugh.
It was named after a bird from Australia. And a cinnamon-style bun named Cinnaspins.
Cinnaspins?
Yep, I think we had these in our area, but it looked like a little, Pillsbury cinnamon roll, and it tasted like a cinnamon roll.
To be fair, I only got to have what my parents got, what my dad in particular got.
Right.
And basically that was the peanut butters and the Thin Mint.
And that's probably where your peanut butter obsession came from.
I don't know.
Or addiction, I guess.
I've got hardcore peanut butter.
Yeah.
Obsession.
And then there's the Ole Oles made of pecans and coconut and covered in powdered sugar. So basically like those little Mexican wedding cake things that Archway used to make. That's what they were basically.
Huh.
2012, there was a Savannah Smile, which was a tribute to Juliet Gordon-Low, the founder of the Girl Scouts, which was like a little parlor tea cake that was lemon flavored.
Okay.
Because she was from Savannah, Georgia, so that was, entertaining in tea rooms was a big thing in her time periods in the southern United States. So that was like a tribute to her. And the name Savannah Smiles is a play on words of one of the Brownies songs that's out there.
Oh.
For the Brownie Scouts. Oh, for a short time, one cookie was more popular than the Thin Mint, and that's the Raspberry Rally from last year. And boxes of these were selling over for $100 on eBay and will not be returning this year. Troops could not keep it up in demand. So it looked like, from what I saw in the pictures, it looked like a Thin Mint, but the cookie inside was like raspberry flavor. So I don't know. Maybe that's the one you're thinking of, or there was a different one.
It was different.
I saw pictures of this and I don't vaguely remember this one, or I don't think we got it because we weren't interested. I don't remember. The world's largest Girl Scout cookie was made in 2009 in Philadelphia for the council's 75th anniversary, weighing in at 75 pounds, 8 feet in diameter, and made a shortbread and in the shape of the Girl Scouts logo. What?
This was just a one-off, right?
Yeah, that was...
Okay, because I'm trying to, logistically, how... Do you make them that big?
No, this was the world's largest Girl Scout cookie.
Okay.
Only one of these was made, and it was for this council's 75th anniversary.
My brain went on stupid mode for a minute.
Because your brain was probably still on, 1 dozen counts, basically, from...
Pretty much, yeah. And I was like, how is that possible? That's a lot of... That'd be expensive.
Right, that'd be one large box.
Nobody likes a big box.
And she's the child this week, as where I was a couple weeks ago about ball cams and whatnot for Times Square.
Yeah.
In 1981, United Airlines bought 2 million Girl Scout cookies to serve as desserts for its passengers. This cost $50,000 in March of 1981, and coming out to the numbers available to me, this would be $164,000 today.
Wow.
And this is still considered the largest single purchase of Girl Scout cookies in history.
That's really surprising because there's people that, they go hard on Girl Scout cookies.
But to spend $164,000 on Girl Scout cookies, I don't see someone personally doing that. I mean, a couple hundred I can see, but not a six-figure number other than an airline like this. Jan Davis, retired astronaut, took shortbread cookies with her to space in 1992. And she was one of the first women to be the space shuttle commander.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Huh.
The top 5 cookies in the United States are ranked as number 5, lemonades or lemon ups. This is where the do-si-do thing came from. Number 4, peanut butter sandwiches, do-si-dos.
Those were do-si-dos?
Yep.
Weird.
And then number 3 is the peanut butter patties / tagalongs. Number 2, caramel delights, Samoas, and of course, number 1,
Thin Mint.
Mm-hmm. Of course, I had to actually look it up to see what the other 4 were going to be because I already knew that one off the top of my head. Mm-hmm. And if you follow me on my personal page, this is actually where the dumbest thing Google's ever presented to me came from. Those top 5 things people have Googled is the Girl Scouts continuing the Thin Mint? It's never going to happen. Hell will freeze over first before that does.
It's their bestseller. Why would they get rid of it?
I don't know why somebody would ask such a dumb question. It is what it is. Because I'm pretty sure those first 4, all 5 of these, even though it's the wrong lemon cookie, will probably always be the top 5 unless something else comes along the way that gets released every year.
There was one that I had with you that was a new lemon that they had come out with, and I did not like those at all.
Right.
But I'm not big on lemon.
And I don't think there's a new one this year like they normally do. Mm-hmm. I'll have to go look at somebody's list cookie list if it gets posted again.
Yeah. Well, Deja and another lady have posted their child's links. So even if you don't have a child that does Girl Scouts, go to our Facebook group, find that thread, order some from Deja and Kristen. They've already got their links up there, and go support the Girl Scouts.
Yep. I think it's time we close the Emporium up for the day, Sarah.
I agree. It's cookie time.
Mm-hmm. So until next time.
Remember to creep it real. Don't forget to dust off the crumbs from your shirt.
Yep.
Goodbye.
Bye.
please go and check out our website at macabreemporiumpodcast.com. Join our Facebook group by searching Macabre Emporium. Like and subscribe on YouTube at Macabre Emporium Podcast. Follow us on TikTok at Macabre Emporium Pod. Follow us on Twitter at Macabre Emporium. If you have any stories of the paranormal, your local true crime, or weird history that you would like us to look into and possibly do an episode on, email us at macabreemporiumpod@gmail.com. And remember to follow, rate, review, and share whenever and wherever you can to help us grow our podcast.
I fucking spaced it. I don't know what the fuck's going on with my goddamn head right now, but anyway.